This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
It's time to light up the studio. Time for Ask the Rabbi.
Oh, this rabbi needs to.
You
Get
got to
with
put
the
your mouse
program.
ears on. Oh,
I gotta put my
and
mouse
take your
ear-
mask
take
off.
my mask off so you can hear me.
Don't
and
kill
understand.
yourself in the process.
That's so often I do what many others do, which is to leave it hanging.
Yep.
From my ears.
I've done
'cause- Yeah. All right. They are mouse ears. I like that. So, welcome everybody. This is the last day of Hanukkah, and I'm going to actually dedicate today's show to my mom. This is the anniversary of her passing way back in the 90s. Yeah, it's been a while, Mom. So it was the last day of Hanukkah. Now, the year that she passed, it was December 21st. But it also was this last day of Hanukkah. So, yeah, so she's been playing on my mind, as they say. I've been thinking about her a lot. And I remember at the time, she had a jewelry shop. And
Now, where was she born?
she was born in Vienna.
Ooh, Austria.
Austria. Yeah. Well, Vienna is a special part of Austria.
Oh.
Yeah, it was told to me this way that when people get in line and somebody cuts the line, it's okay if they're from Vienna.
I like it. Okay.
My mother
The
never said that, but
The
yeah.
privileged part of
Yeah,
Vienna.
my mother never said that to her credit, but others did. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah.
So now how old was she?
She was born in 15.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the century, she was in her 80s.
Yeah.
She was the youngest in her family to go. She and her two sisters, all three of them, passed in the same year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really?
one of them passed in like February, the next one in June, July, and she went that December.
Wow. My mom was born in 2017. Yeah.
And she
or,
was
I
like-
mean, 1917. Yeah.
And she was like 12 or 13 years younger than her oldest sister. So there was quite a spread there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was, let's see, first generation American, or all the relatives are from Italy. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Got to get myself organized here.
Get that coffee in
I'll
there.
pretend that I'm organized. Yeah, me and my coffee. My husband will tell you that there isn't much I do without coffee nearby.
Well, believe me, growing up in television newsrooms, us too.
So I have to share with you, right? There are a couple of 2020 shirts I'm wearing.
That's
one that says
adorable, though.
Hanukkah 2020, the year the one where we were quarantined.
Oh.
So, and of course the 2020s are wearing their little face masks. They're being good.
Sure.
They're
I
not
love
quite
it.
social distancing from the twos, but I guess they're a unit.
Now, where in the world did you get that?
Thank you, Amazon.
Amazon.
Amazon
Naturally.
and actually, I found the best Hanukkah shirts this year online at Amazon and Walmart. At Target had a couple. I went cruising looking. I really did. That was my gift to myself.
Did anybody have anything locally?
I didn't see anything. Last year, I got a couple of things locally.
We used to have a bunch of
And I wore some of
specialty
those.
stores in
Yeah.
L.A. that were marvelous.
TJ Maxx has had things.
Really?
Yeah. Bill's has had things.
Wow.
I want to say, yeah, Bill's and Bell's. Forgive me, I never pronounce it the way
No, I know,
locals
yeah.
do. And I consider myself a local at this point, but
If you've
I
been here
still have to work
48
with-
hours, you're a
you're a
native.
local. And Target has a little bit sometimes. They have much more online than they do. I guess they don't, you've got somebody at some central office who's trying to decide where do you have a Jewish population and where do you not.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I get it.
Yeah. Actually, St. Lucie County and has a fair number of Jews. Pretty good percentage, but a lot of them are what we call undercover.
I don't know what you mean.
They don't connect into the Jewish community through the congregations. So, yeah, there's a few thousand hiding. And there's a number of reasons. Sometimes they maintain their membership up north because that's where their kids are. And there's this segment of Florida population that's here for 10 to 15 years, right? They come down right after they retire. They live actively here, but then they're going to go back, right? They're going to go home, go back to where their family is. And I understand the desire to be, close to family as you get older. So it's a very reasonable kind of approach. But some of those folks do not connect into the local community because they keep some connection to their northern synagogues.
Interesting. Okay.
And they may even go back for some of the significant holidays. They may visit with family, and so they don't feel like they're really participating down here. Although Jewishly, interestingly enough, the most important holiday in the Jewish calendar is Shabbat. And it happens every week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because Judaism says that what happens more often is more important than what happens only once or twice a year.
Is there anything in the scriptures that not force you to go to Shabbat, but
Scripture is pretty clear about doing Shabbat, but it's also pretty clear that people started violating that rule as fast as it was put in place.
This is like ours. Go to Sunday Mass or you're excommunicated.
Yeah.
We had that drilled into us in grade school.
Yeah. And there are people who are terrified of that, right? If they don't go.
Oh, yeah.
That there will be horrible consequences. And that's, how can I say? I wish that people would stop using fear in that way. But unfortunately, it's effective. Fear is really good at controlling folks, especially folks who don't use logic and critical thinking.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Because logic and critical thinking are the antidotes to fear. What can I say? But, part of that comes from when people are frustrated, they tend to get violent, and so that creates fear. So that there's a really vicious cycle in there. And I think that human dignity and human evolution into a higher form of ourselves requires stepping away from that model on all levels. But, that's the psychologist in me. What can I say?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked to folks and the whole fear aspect of a lot of stuff that happened when I was a kid, and it's just all part of that.
Yeah, well, parents unfortunately start using fear as a method of controlling kids very early on.
Well, this is more at school than anything else.
Right,
Yeah,
do this or I'll smack you, or do this, right? That's... And I understand, it's hard to reason with a 3-year-old. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
On the other hand, I do it all the time because I work with dogs.
I was going to say you teach it.
Well, I
in
also
college.
teach kids, yeah.
By the way, we have to say hats off to Ms. Smith, the philanthropist. $45 million donation to your IRSC.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Every once in a while, somebody does understand what it takes to make things happen.
Yeah. And what was truly amazing with that gift to IRSC was the fact that she looked at 6,500 colleges. And that was one of 300 and whatever that got the donation. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that tells a lot about what you have at IRSC.
It is. It's an excellent school. There's a couple of, I do college entrance coaching, and I do college. I do a fair amount of coaching for people who are writing their essays for colleges.
Okay.
And dissertation coaching and all of. I do writing coaching, and one of the things I tell people is, it's well worth it to come to a school like IRSC, no matter where you are in the country, because of the caliber and quality of IRSC. Come to Florida, set up your residency, and go. But of course, IRSC now has gone global, right? The global campus online. So you can do an IRSC degree anywhere and get the quality of education that we have. One of the things that professors are challenged with doing at IRSC is helping our students be successful. That doesn't mean giving them A's, but it means working with them and coaching them to help them do the work to get the A, to earn the A.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have enough experience. I've connected with a couple of other colleges and universities, and IRSC definitely does care about its students. Absolutely cares about, and has the graduation rate and the college, going on to other colleges and going into business and being successful, kinds of numbers that demonstrate that what started under President Massey and is now continuing and expanding, it works.
Mm-hmm.
To care about students really works. And, what can I say?
Yeah, it's a good formula.
I'm honored to be part of IRSC. It's been a really good school with me. So, so those are just some of the things that I do. So, hey, here's the advertisement. Anybody want some help with their kids writing their essays, contact me. I do that as a tutor.
Wow, okay. Yeah. What, in your spare time?
In my copious spare
that
time.
Would be what, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.?
Actually, I was on with a student last night from about midnight until about 2.
Oh, no.
It's surprising to me that one of the things that I really see happening is that we don't really, we've got all these college prep things in high school, but we really don't prepare students for some of the basic skills that they're going to need to be successful. We don't teach them how to, we teach them how to write, but not really. There's an art and a skill to it, and it's really important.
Well, and then I guess in a way there's kind of the social aspect too. I know when Carol had skipped some grades in elementary school, and and when she got to Indiana University, what was she, 16 or something? So, and there's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for a normal freshman, if you will.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the dual enrolls definitely show that, right? And professors are alerted as to which students are dual enrolled. And it's usually one of the very first questions I ask when I walk in the classes, who is dual enrolled, because it gives me an idea of who's going to have the more high schoolish approach to college and who's going to be there. There is a trade-off. I think that dual enroll, if somebody doesn't take advantage of it and they can, that they're foolish, because I wish I had it.
Mm-hmm. What was interesting, I thought, was in one of our young Floridian judging, I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and she was going to the University of Florida after IRSC, and she was a soccer player, and they told her she would be living in the freshman dorm just because of her age.
Yeah.
But, she obviously was a junior at University of Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the reason for that is obviously the freshman dorm has a little more supervision. And I say little.
And they're
because
kids her age.
I remember living in one.
Uh-oh. Yes.
And I lived in them in the days when girls were locked in the dorm at night. And after a couple of them were caught with open windows, they came around and put bars on all the windows.
Yes.
With breakaways so that in case you had a fire, you could at least get out. But there was a big hue and cry, and some of the young ladies were a little upset.
No guys.
Yeah. And
boy, those days are long gone.
Yeah, you're bringing back memories. There was a time when the power went out, and it had been out for about 2 hours. And then when it came back on, the number of males running out of the dorm was impressive.
I love it.
Yeah.
Was this winter time or a little bit warmer time?
It was fallish. It wasn't quite winter.
But cool.
But cool.
Oh, no.
There were some interesting sights as the dorm mothers, as we called them, ran from room to room to vacate non-residents. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
that is funny.
Yeah, there was actually a small group of us that were sitting in the hallway watching because we figured it was going to get interesting, and it did.
You see, those are the days long before what you've got in front of
Yeah.
you, little camera in your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if we had those back then.
Oh, there'd be some very embarrassed young people today.
It's all over.
Yeah, life would have been totally different with the technology that we have. And I was, my gosh, I sat where you sit now at the radio station, WRUC-FM, and that's not our station right now. We're WPSL, and this is Ask a Rabbi, and it's digital 1590. So, but anyway, that was the days of the newspaper and the radio station for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very much into that. We had a turntable with wonderful arms that you put on the rolled back and cued, and yes.
So what was your duty at the newspaper?
I was the editor-in-chief my senior year.
Whoa!
So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's an interesting feeling because the paper came out. It was a weekly paper, and it came out on Thursdays at dinner time. So we put the paper to bed Monday night. We gathered everything, whatever, and the reporters all brought their stories in, and we read them and edited them, and took them to the print shop on Monday night. So the paper went to bed Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to pick up pizza on the way back for everybody who worked at the paper, and we would have a party.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was a fun thing. And then Tuesday we went down and did the headlines. Right, we'd estimated them, and then we went and tweaked based on what the layout really worked out in the paper because it was all done in those days with press. So we had proofs and we marked them up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
linotype, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and so we actually moved stuff and did things, and it was interesting. And that was Tuesday, and then nothing on Wednesday, and we went Thursday at about 3:00. As soon as my last class was done, we hopped in my car, which I was allowed to have on campus, in part because I was on the VCR crew and the radio and the newspaper, so clearly I had to drive my little Volvo all over the campus, literally. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
The trunk on the Volvo back then was where most of the VCR equipment traveled.
Oh,
and,
sure.
That's how it got to games and whatever. So I would drive it down after my last class on Thursday, pick up the paper, and have it back. We'd give it out at 6:00. And this is the old days when everybody came to dinner at 6:00, and we hovered outside, and usually we'd give out the paper either as people were going into dinner or in that hover period, people could grab the paper. And it was an interesting feeling to look at because usually what people would do is they would take their paper, fold it, eat, and then, in the few minutes you'd wait until you left the dining room, I'd see all the papers open up. And that was a really, it was like, oh my gosh, people really do want to read what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
What I contributed
Sure.
to. And I used to, run around and kick the some of the reporters and say, look, they're reading your article.
How many copies did you guys have to print?
I want to say there were probably a couple thousand students. So
Okay.
it was significant.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to look back to know the real number. I really don't remember. It was a huge dining hall, and we had 22 minutes to eat. I remember that. Because in 22 minutes, when you walked in, the basic food was on the table, and as soon as we were seated, the waiters came running with the hot food and brought it to the table. When we first sat down, there would be rolls and salads and stuff already on the table, and they would bring family style the main choices. We didn't have to go through a line or anything like that. It was all served at the table.
That was the moniker for Westinghouse Broadcasting's all news stations. Give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Yeah, it was 22 minutes.
What is it with 22?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
But at the end of it, you would take your paper napkin and stuff. We had little metal holders with paper cups coming out of them, because that way they didn't have to wash. They just crumpled up the cup, and you took your napkin and you stuffed it into the little thing and folded it up, and that made it easy for the bussers to bus the tables. And I remember and we sat in a assigned table, so it wasn't a free-for-all. You went to your table. You might jiggle which chair you sat in around the table, but you always ate with the same crowd. And I can remember
they do that per majors? Is that how they would do that?
It was I don't know how they assigned the tables. I think it was actually much more random. I think it was intended to help build camaraderie.
Sure,
yeah.
I see that.
It changed every semester. Each semester, when you got your courses, you got your table assignment, along with a whole things were much more regimented back then. Back when the dinosaurs roamed.
Yeah.
And
they were your profs.
And they were what can I say? In some case, never mind.
Let me see the list.
Yeah. It's funny because every once in a while I have gone back and looked to see, what happened to such and such a prof and such a prof, and it's been interesting. Yeah. But one of my favorite stories about it, because we used to stuff the napkin into that cup, was one of the kids went home for Thanksgiving and shared this story after Thanksgiving when they came back, and my mother was horrified when they took their fine linen napkin from Thanksgiving dinner and stuffed it into the stemware because of habit.
Sure, I get it.
And I will say that I learned to eat much more quickly as a result of that period.
Well, 20 minutes. That's quick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Prior to that, my parents used to say that, the world would be finished eating before I was. That changed in college because I wanted to eat.
Sure.
So, that was the Ursinus Weekly was the paper. We had a fun time with it. That year, my senior year, the day that we published was April 1st in the spring. And so instead of WEEKLY, we did WEAKLY. And the banner on it was all the news that fits we print. And it was fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, and what can I say?
Good school.
Yeah, it was a fun time for me. I didn't set out to become any of those things, but they just sort of happened around me, and I enjoyed it. I had the time and the ability to do the extra run to the print shop. It's I'm sure one of the reasons I was selected, because it was a college selection choice, the powers that be. And I remember the outgoing editor-in-chief coming and telling me I was one of the final candidates, and actually coaching me on how to meet with him. This was a very, very old-style traditional school. I and a number of other women actually got sat down and taught how to have tea properly on our laps, on our knees.
No way. I could
No,
never.
I'm serious.
I could never function in that.
No, I mean, you see how basic I am. I drink my coffee out of a bottle. But that would never have flown in that special session that we had.
Oh, boy.
And, yeah.
So how'd you ever get on the VCR crew, the video crew? How did that happen?
That they did because they didn't have journalism or graphic arts department yet.
Oh, okay.
They truly just had about 10 of us that were the VCR crew. And I think it was by volunteering. It was, it's just one of those things you could sign up for. And I don't know, I was one of the people that learned very quickly how to run the mixer and how to run the cameras. So, and I had a good trunk on my Volvo, so, it was a good mix.
Oh.
I'm sure my Volvo played into that piece.
Yeah. Yes.
I had a little old secondhand Volvo that I drove at college, and I called her Betsy. And she was an amazing little car. She always responded. I put the key in, she turned. And I filled up the gas tank for $5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were not a journalism major, though.
No, I'm not a journalism major. I was a philosophy major. Now,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
philosophy...
you wound up doing two journalistic things with the video and the newspaper.
And the radio station.
And the radio, sure.
Three things,
Yeah.
And, I guess writing it's funny because I don't think I was a particularly good writer when I first arrived at college. But my college roommate, with whom I still stay in contact, she lives up in D.C. area, and she went into education for the government. She did some cool things for them. She's now retired. I'm not, but what can I say? But she's actually the one. If you're listening, Tova, she's why my English is what it is today, because she pounded me mercilessly for my English. She constantly corrected my spelling, my grammar, my punctuation, and I will never forget the Oxford comma. Thank you. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I can credit her with that ability. And of course in philosophy, which I tell most of my philosophy students, you do a lot of writing. You do a lot of thinking.
Sure.
You do a lot of talking. You do a lot of writing. Because philosophy is the love of wisdom. Excuse me. And the way that we do that is we communicate it. It's in our method of speech. And of course, then I have the PhD in education and the PhD in psychology. So it's this weird thing. And crazy me, I'm taking the finance stuff right now.
And you're an engineer.
And I have an engineering degree.
It's like, okay.
Well, I am definitely, there's a
You're a
model.
Renaissance woman.
Yeah, I'm a something. I love math. I always have. And I actually originally thought I would go to Drexel and take architecture.
Ooh.
Yeah, but
Great college.
it is a great college, except that when I was young, they said to me, if you weren't a woman,
Boys' school. Yep.
we'd love to have you as a student.
We played Drexel when I was at Loyola. Yeah. It was all male, just
Yeah.
like we were
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yep.
I thought I could get in. No way. So I ended up at Ursinus, and it was not a bad, it was in the end, a good choice. And, but yeah, that's a philosophy major with vector mechanics as my elective.
Now, did you guys ever have, what they call them at Loyola, some mixed socials with the women's colleges?
No, Ursinus was co-ed.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
Oh,
Ursinus was co-ed. We were pre-med and physical PT teachers. A lot of PT teachers went there. And we used to joke about, the doctors and the jocks, because it was women jocks.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Mostly male pre-med and mostly female jocks teaching things like lacrosse. And they've still got one heck of a lacrosse team.
Ooh, yeah, that sport is on the rise.
And they
Yeah.
did, and that was, like I said, back in the dinosaur days. So, and they had a football team. It's the only football court with a tree in the end zone because they couldn't cut it down. That's where the Ursinus bear lives.
Okay. And there's a joke in here somewhere.
Actually, it's not there anymore. It acquired a disease and a lightning strike, and it has gone the way. Yeah, they actually cut it down and made little pieces, and you could buy them for tokens. But when I was there, there was
selling
a tree,
bricks.
There was a tree in the end zone of the football, and I used to stand on top when I was on camera, and the mixer was downstairs. But if you were on camera, and I very often was for the football games, you were on top of the press box.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
along
been there.
with one of the coaches very often would be up there, screaming and yelling. In his mic, his headset, and I'd be trying to keep the camera focused. And there was one game where that was really bad because the coach got really frustrated, and the camera would be chained to the fence post that was around the railing that was up on the roof for our safety, and we would chain the camera to it so it didn't take an unexpected trip anywhere. And he was so frustrated that he took his clipboard and he started banging on that railing, and I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Where were we? Was it Buffalo? I think it was. It was the old stadium in Buffalo. And that reminds me of this one NBC cameraman who didn't lock down his camera. He's on the top of the press box. Thank God. Nobody was in the stadium yet. You know what happened. It went straight down and just shattered. It was...
Yeah, no. We chaining the camera was one of the first actions you did.
Yeah. Well, and you guys had to deal with pretty severe weather.
Part of the year.
At the end of the year. Yeah.
Part of the year.
Yeah.
And the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember that one, and I can remember hearing in my little headset from my the guy on the mixer, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "You wouldn't believe."
Yeah. I'll tell you about it after.
Yeah.
Wow. So which did you prefer? Did you like the radio, the paper, or were they all pretty equal?
They were all pretty equal.
Okay.
They really were. Each one did something a little different.
Uh-huh.
And, I loved the being in the action part of being on the VCR, because we were always, wherever stuff was going on, we were VCRing. And these are the old VCRs,
Oh, yeah.
And, the cartridges and all of that good stuff. VCR was new back then.
And cameras had 8 batteries.
Yeah, they were big. They were huge.
Yes.
And, and then the newspaper, of course, had the writing piece, and it had the layout. And I knew layout because I had done a little bit of stuff when I was in California in let's say Escondido.
Mm-hmm. North of San Diego.
Yeah. It was either that or Escondido. No, Poway. I'm sorry.
Poway. We lived right across the freeway from Poway.
My mother actually, for a couple of years when we lived in Poway, ran a little news, the once a week little rag things, the freebie stuff that you got, was rolled in, and you put a rubber band in it and you threw it out the window into people's, because I did that. I hung out the window of the car and threw out as she drove down the street. And we had other deliverers that took X number of papers. You got a penny a paper. Yeah. But with her, we had the linotype. We had all of that old, wonderful equipment and that smell of glue, the rubber cement.
Did you ever have to work with mimeographs?
Yeah, but
Ooh.
Yeah, actually, that paper was mimeograph when we started.
Oh, that's brutal.
And she took it into photo offset.
Mm-hmm.
And when it went to when it was mimeograph, we actually printed it there, and and collated it. I ran a collating machine where, and it was stapled.
Oh,
And
gosh.
Just
Yeah.
before she sold it, we had migrated to photo offset, and we took the galleys to a printer that printed newspaper style, and then it stopped being this little stapled roll up thing that you got to being much more newspapery.
So you were the Poway Press.
Yeah, I forget what it was called, but it was some little ad thing. The bulk of it was ads, and there were a few little articles in it, but not much. And
Beautiful area of San
yeah,
Diego.
it was a fun thing. And I learned from her, using the linotype and actually laying out ads. So I learned graphic design by being there with my mother while she worked. And I can't tell you how many times I slept on the paper hearing the of the printing presses.
Sure.
And then, like I said, they finally sold those and went to having it printed.
Now, was San Diego Stadium built when you were there?
I don't
In
remember.
Mission Valley?
I don't remember.
They're now tearing it down.
Yeah.
I just think,
Yeah.
I spent so many nights there.
Yeah, so I had this graphic design background, and that I'm sure was part of what appealed in the application at college, because that was obvious from the work that I had done.
That is
coming
so
up.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So no, they didn't have a journalism. They did have an English department, and the editor-in-chief that I replaced might even be a doctor down here in Florida. Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, I have
Look her
not
up?
looked him up. I've
Oh,
got
it's
to
a
check.
him? Okay.
Yeah, it's a him. Yeah,
You should.
Alan.
That would.
Alan was my predecessor in the newspaper, and I remember working with him. He was pre-med, and in the radio station it was a guy named Jeff, and Jeff was a tall, very, very tall guy, and he loved puns. And one of my memories of him, and this was in winter, was of one of the other folks in the radio station chasing him all over the campus with a fire extinguisher because of one of his puns. So, yeah, they gotcha.
Oh, boy.
And he was our license. That was back in the days when you had to take the license and you had to.
Oh, Morse code.
Yeah, you had to be able to do.
Oh,
Morse
yeah.
to get
Yeah.
To get the. Yeah.
I had to get it for
You
my
remember
first.
that, right?
My,
Yep.
yeah, Cliff got
Yeah.
it for his.
Yeah, you had to get Morse code. I could remember learning,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and we, those of us that did that in class, of course, tapped stuff out with a pencil. Yeah.
The private messages.
Yeah,
No
so-
one understands. Okay.
Well, okay, so for the few folks who still do code, the first thing that I actually got that somebody sent me in class, did it, da idiot. Did it,
I thought you were going to say
did it,
SOS.
da. Bring back memories.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
So yeah, you had to have that for the general license,
Mm-hmm.
so that you could plug the transmitter in.
And I got a first ticket. So
Okay.
that was, it's, we went for what, was it a semester, I think. I was still at Loyola, but went to Don Martin in Hollywood, and that's all they taught was that test. Yeah.
I believe that because it was a hard test.
Oh,
and Jeff
difficult.
coached
Very
us
difficult.
as a general. He was able to coach us in getting our tickets, and you had to have a ticket. Our radio station, I think, went out of block. We were a half a watt.
Yeah. Well, our campus radio station, KXLU, on the AM side, was dorms only.
No,
Yeah.
This was an FM station.
Okay, yeah.
89.5 FM in stereo.
We had our FM side. It was great. Our FM side was classical, and it was really, really funny where, you had student broadcasters.
Yeah.
And,
So we had-
occasionally you played Wagner.
We played
It was,
played
oh, no.
whatever. Jeff liked big bands.
Okay.
So he always did a big band hour. And I and my hour and my roommate's hour were both folk songs.
Oh.
So we would play folk songs. And yeah.
That's cool.
So the
That's
station
another
had
side of you that's unique. Folk songs, huh?
folk songs. Yeah, Raggle Taggle Gypsy-O and Bickel's music and all kinds of things.
Peter, Paul, and Mary?
Yeah, Peter, Paul, and Mary.
A little bit of Limelighters thrown in.
Different stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember. I've got the records. I still have the records.
You don't have anything to play them on.
33s. Yeah, God knows what condition they're in. They're in a box. There's a set of 4 boxes of my vinyl.
I hope not in the garage.
No, in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Well,
house
they may be in good shape.
I have we actually do have a turnstile, and my husband is a stereo lover, and in his rack, for lack of a better word, there is a turntable, but we've not played it. Not since we moved to Florida. We did a couple of times in Tucson, and we did often in Canton before we moved.
It would be interesting to see what kind of shape the recordings are in now, after being in Florida for a while.
Yeah, maybe someday. I'm sure that somebody will enjoy them somewhere down the road. They're vinyl. You can probably clean a lot of things off of them.
Actually, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tolerate a lot of treatments to get rid of stuff. So, I don't know that they have it because they're dry in the house, but nothing's dry in Florida.
So being a folk person, did you have any folk concerts on campus?
I don't remember any of those. I remember having speakers. We had a ton of speakers that came through. In fact, you had to go to some number of those and get your little ticket punch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you had to turn that in at the end of the semester. And if you didn't do that, I don't remember what the penalty was. You probably, swang from something. There was this one arch on the campus. And the one thing that I really, really wanted to do and never had the guts to do was to drive my car through in daylight.
Okay, and it would fit?
The Volvo would. Yeah, the Volvo was narrow.
Okay.
I had a really good perception of how big the car was. I fit it through amazing things with nary a scratch. So.
That's your engineering side.
Yeah. That came in handy, actually, when I was in Luxembourg, and that was a funny story. I had to be in Luxembourg for, I think it was 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that, and it was over summer, so it was in June, and we were working on a NATO bid, and I had the reputation at Goodyear of being one of the best proposal writers. And so when the group in Luxembourg had to submit this to NATO, they did not have the skill and the training that we had gotten in the U.S. Because they didn't do that many proposals.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the proposals for things would go to Boeing or to McDonnell Douglas or one of the it was aircraft that I worked with at the time. So it would go to those kinds of bids, but the RFP had come out of NATO itself, and so they were supposed to supply a new tire for whatever it was that NATO was getting, and they didn't know how to write the proposal, so the idea was that I would go over and I would help them frame it and get it packaged and ready to go out. They would supply the technical information, and I would just use my engineering, but also use my writing skills to write this proposal. And so when I was in Luxembourg, and there were some really funny stories coming out of that. Talk about cultural assumptions. Right here comes the American little, and I'm short, which you know. I was a lot thinner then, but I also was very young. And they gave me a Volvo, and they thought that I would be devastated by that. And I was thrilled because I love Volvos. It's actually one of the things, it's an ironic piece, that attracted me to my husband because at the time when we met, he was driving a Volvo. And
That's
we've
funny.
had it. It's not nearly the. Sorry about that, Volvo. You're just not the car you used to be.
Are any of them? Seriously?
Seriously, most of them are not. It's true. They're quickly packaged in and out the door, and
And a lot of plastic.
yeah. But they gave me this Volvo, and I took it up on the Autobahn and did quite well with it.
Yeah.
Whenever I wasn't in the office, I was touring, and Bill actually came over for the weekend of the time that I was there.
Oh,
and,
wow. Okay.
And we had a good time. We went to Germany, we went to France, we went to Belgium, we went all the countries
So
around.
what's the Autobahn like?
Fast. Very fast. Very, very intent driving.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah,
It's-
and nobody passes the BMWs. They go.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was warned of that. I was actually warned of that.
Keep
back
your
then.
Volvo in the slow lane.
Yeah, if you see a Beamer coming, let it through, or a Mercedes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
many of them did have big horses under that hood. So, but yeah, that was fun. And
So what happened to your proposal?
it was accepted actually. They did
Good.
well with it. Yeah. When Goodyear did one very, very smart thing. They took some of us and they actually put us through this really specialized how to write an RFP. And the training that I received in there is part of what I teach when I coach writing skills to people who are looking to get into college, to write papers, to to just do that sort of thing. And it makes a huge difference. The philosophy behind writing a successful RFP is the key to writing a successful college essay. It's the key to writing a successful paper, to doing any assignment. And I take some time in my classes to teach that to my students, but I also coach it, as I said, for anybody who's, I do that as an unprivate tutoring kind of thing.
And I'll bet writing a business plan too. Same thing.
Yes, any kind of writing.
Sure.
There's a logic to it, and there's actually a system we used at Goodyear. The overarching system is called information mapping, but because we were writing technical information, which is a little bit different, technical writing, we did something called technical mapping, and I taught that as well inside Goodyear to other engineers. Not as a full-time trainer, but as a run this class once a quarter or something like that.
That's neat.
Yeah, kind of fun. So I guess writing has always been the sidebar of what I do. And
This is fascinating. Yeah. Your background
Yeah.
is just
it's
absolutely
not,
amazing.
not where I expected today's show to go.
I was going to say, are we going to talk about Hanukkah at all?
Well, we can talk about Hanukkah. Let's go ahead and do that for the last 6 minutes.
5 to 6 minutes.
So it's the last day of Hanukkah. Hanukkah's on its tail end. And as of sundown tonight, excuse me, the coffee is not, I should drink it and not talk when I drink.
Yeah, that'll do it. Goes down the wrong pipe.
So, but yeah, Hanukkah is on its last few hours. Sunset's right around 6 o'clock. I know that because we've been lighting candles at 6 o'clock. So at about 6 o'clock tonight, it's going to shift over to Shabbat, and it will no longer be Hanukkah. Hanukkah 5781 will be done.
Wow.
Yeah. So. And then it's December, but I'm going to go ahead and continue wearing Hanukkah shirts for the rest of December because since I bought them, I might as well get some wearing. out of them.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
And I do love, we still have a couple of these masks if anybody wants one. These masks that say 8 Crazy Nights.
Oh, I love it.
The congregation is selling those for $6. And you can order them on the website. You can order them, you can see the picture of them on Facebook on the Temple's page. And so the next thing we've got is which is tonight, Third Friday. And then in January, we'll have a Third Friday. The next plant sale, and that went really well, by the way. We did quite well with that.
I forgot to ask you
Yeah,
about
the
that.
plant sale went nicely, and we were able to keep it down to the 10 people in a room. There was once or twice where a couple of us that were working the sale went out into the hallway to make sure we stayed at our 10. But there was plenty of room in that room to space out and be safe with 10 people in there. And so that went well. The next one will either be the very end of February or the beginning of March.
Okay.
Because we've got to get some of the plants have to get through winter. I picked up a little critter. Somebody gave me a monarch butterfly caterpillar at the plant sale, so it came home with some milkweed for me. I've got to get some milkweed growing outside because, the monarchs need it. The monarchs are in danger, and he or she is doing quite well. Some say you can sex a caterpillar, and others say you can't. But what you have to do to sex it, I'm not really willing to do. You've got to go look at the anal part of the with a magnifying glass and see if it's got this bump or not. I'm not going to do that to the caterpillar or to me. I'll wait, and when it comes out of its chrysalis, actually there's another way to sex them in chrysalis by whether or not they have a line. The females have a line and the males don't in a certain place. Well, I can try that if I can get a good enough glimpse at the chrysalis. But when they're born, the male has a little black sac on the wing, and the female doesn't. So, pretty straightforward. So we'll see if I see it when it goes to fly.
Black sac, kind of like a man's brain.
I'm not going there. I'm not touching that one. You can have that one all to yourself.
It's a guy thing.
I got you, Greg. Anyway, so that's some of my crazy checkered past, and it's part of why I love writing, and I always have. And I think that good language skills, and it's not because I have decent ones, because I don't know that I have spectacular ones, but I have decent ones. And having those kinds of skills really does help you communicate your ideas to the world. Because the object of, this is the key, right? The object of communication is to be heard. And if you don't package it in a way that it can be heard, you could be the most brilliant thing on the planet and nobody will know it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is in communication. It's in how we let others know what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and whether or not our arguments are compelling. And, people try to use bravado and showmanship, but the real key is in the message that you deliver. So on that note, may the light of Chanukah shine into everyone's life, and may it be a year of coming out of the darkness and into light. So we're again gonna do the meals for the first responders. Thank you to all the folks who are sponsoring a meal and donating it, and I'm looking forward to all the folks that are part of what we do.
Thanks for 2Js for supplying.
Thank you to 2Js, yeah. A special shout out to Adam at 2Js, who's the guy that we work with. He does a wonderful job of making sure our meals are wonderful, and they're delivered to the temple nice and hot, and then they go on out to the various folks who participate.
That's cool.
So, in a month you can join Third Friday. I don't know what weekend it'll be in January, but just count Third Friday, and it'll be there. Orders need to be in by Tuesday of the week before, so we can get them to 2Js. This is Rabbi Shafir Lobb of Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home in Port St. Lucie.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Ask a Rabbi right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie, WPSL.com, webcaster to the world, on Alexa, Google Home, and TuneIn.